Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanitam Tam Sajivam Sadhutam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Ladita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so we will continue from fourth chapter. Atmajaya Sutagara Pashudravina Bandhushu Rajye Chavikale Nityam Nirudham Mamatham Jaho. Maharaj Parikshit, as a result of his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, his wife, his children, his palace, his animals like horses and elephants, his treasury house, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom. So all these things, Maharaj Parikshit, he was cursed to death. Then immediately, he was not lamenting, thinking, "Oh, what will happen to all these things? Anyway, I'm going to die." So, he just detached from everything instantly, without any second thought. Purport: to become liberated means to become free from dehatma buddhi. Dehatma buddhi, the illusory attachment for personal bodily coverings and everything connected with the body, namely wife, children, and all other entanglements. One selects a wife for bodily comforts, and the result is children. For wife and children, one require a dwelling place, and as such, a residential house is also necessary. Animals like horses, elephants, cows, and dogs are all household animals, and the householder has to keep them as household paraphernalia. In modern civilization, the horses and elephants have been replaced by cars and conveyances with considerable horsepower. To maintain all the household affairs, one has to increase the bank balance and be careful about the treasury house. And in order to display the opulence of material assets, one has to keep good relations with friends and relatives, as well as become very careful about maintaining the status quo. This is called material civilization of material attachment, right? So it's very, very graphically it is put in that what is the material civilization and material attachment. So, like when somebody wants to have a proper standard of enjoyment, so then first of all he should be a family man, and then if he is a family man, then he needs a place to live, this apartment, and then like horses, elephants, cows, and dogs. Cows these days people don't feel any need of it. Horses and elephants, royal people used to have a lot of them, and then they used to like ride on them actually. And then people have dogs at least, these days. So so these are replaced by the cars and motorbikes and things like that and all. And then to maintain all these things, nice bank balance is required, so one has to keep nice treasury. And then we have to show it off to somebody, so friends and relatives are needed. So if somebody doesn't have any good money or things like that, so then they're not very active in the social circle. So because the society is looking for that only, right? So they are not very active in the social circle. So then they have to maintain their status quo, they have to maintain their dignity in the society and things like that. So, but then a devotee of the Lord is not very much interested in these things. If it is there, it's okay. If it is not there, also it's okay. He's just whatever is gifted by the Lord, according to either by karma or by gift of the Lord, whatever comes, just be satisfied with that. and then we can continue our life in that way, right? So here it's mentioned, this is called material civilization of material attachment, right? So this is essentially, whatever advancement, whatever new things may come in the society, it's all summed up into these things. This is what exactly is happening. So let's continue. Devotion for Lord Krishna means negation of all material attachments as detailed above. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Maharaj Parikshit was awarded all material amenities and an undisputed kingdom in which to enjoy the undisputed position of king. But by the grace of the Lord, he was able to give up all connections with material attachment. This is the position of a pure devotee. So here we see that no, Maharaj Parikshit was not a poor person. So, and then anyway, like, no, I don't have anything, I'll become detached. No, he is having everything in the life. And then it is, no, it is gone from him. And, or it is just a notice is given that he will die in 7 days. So, no, like we have some competitions, no, sometimes they give some 5 minutes time, and then they can go into the supermarket, and then whatever they want, they can pick it up, and if they don't come back in 5 minutes, then all that they have picked up will be of loss, right? So in that way also competitions sometimes people do. So here we see that the life is a timer that is there. So this life timer is going to end at a certain point in time. So but then people are not very much careful about this, and they are entering into the supermarket of this world, and then they are going and picking up things, and then they're not even, they don't even know when the end is going to come, so what's the point of picking up all these things, and if we are going to leave it back and go, right? So that's the thought of a pure devotee of the Lord. So they think that, what's the point, like, we need to um, progress in Krishna consciousness. So that is very important. That's something which is eternal asset, and all other assets, which are there, which are temporary in this world. So all of them, we need them for some time, but then we cannot take it back with us. We cannot keep it with us for all the time. Right? So, okay. So Maharaj Parikshit, due to his natural affection for Lord Krishna as a devotee of the Lord, was always executing his royal duties on behalf of the Lord, and as a responsible king of the world, he was always careful to see the influence of Kali would not enter his kingdom. A devotee of the Lord never thinks of his household paraphernalia as his own, but surrenders everything for the service of the Lord. Thereby, the living entity under a devotee's care get the opportunity for God realization by the management of a devotee master. So here we can see, Parikshit Maharaj detached from the kingdom and all its paraphernalia, but then it is shown here that when he was a king, though he was detached, he was doing his duty properly. He was maintaining his kingdom very properly. That is a very important thing to understand here. It is not that he was careless anyway. I'm a devotee and I don't need to anyway I have to be detached from all these things, so let me be detached from the beginning. So no, it's not like that. He was detached means he was knowing that this doesn't belong to me. My family, my assets, and all these things is Krishna's property. And if it is Krishna's property given to me, then for management, then I have to take care of it very nicely, right? So in that way, they used to take care very nicely. But then when time comes, when Krishna says that, okay, now I'll take care of my property, your job is done, so then they, okay, say fine, like, no, whatever assignment you give, I'm ready for it. So they are, that is the meaning of detachment. Detachment means like, it's not, somewhere we have to be attached. So either our personal choices we are attached to, or Krishna's choices we are attached to. So that is the only difference there. So if we are attached to Krishna's choices, so then that is called detachment. If we are attached to our own choices, then it is called attachment. So even maintaining a nice family or giving up a family, if it is done on one's own personal whims, then it is still attachment only. It is not no renunciation. Real renunciation means to like follow the instructions of the Lord, or trying to please the Supreme Lord. That is real renunciation. Otherwise, no, it is not called as real renunciation. So here, Maharaj Parikshit, when he was maintaining the kingdom, still he was renounced, And when the death notice came, he renounced his kingdom. Still, he was renounced. So it is very important that it is we do as devotees. We should not become careless in maintaining our whatever assets the Lord has given. So we should maintain them as gift of Lord. And whenever the Lord says that enough of service, we should be ready to wash our hands off, right? So, and then it's also mentioned here that living under a devotee's care, that is also very nice. Like the all the people who are living under a devotee's care, so they get good opportunity for God realization. That's also a nice point mentioned here. Then attachment for household paraphernalia and for Lord Krishna go poorly together. One attachment is the path of darkness, and other attachment is path of light. Where there is light, there is no darkness. Where there is darkness, there is no light. But an expert devotee can turn everything into path of light by an attitude of service to the Lord. And the best example here is the Pandavas. Maharaj Yudhishthira and householders like him can turn everything to light by dovetailing so-called material assets in the service of the Lord. But one who is not trained or is unable to turn everything to service of the Lord, nirbandha Krishna sambandhe, must give up all material connections before he can be fit to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. Or in other words, one who has seriously heard Srimad Bhagavatam for even one day, like Maharaj Parikshit, from a fit personality like Sukadeva Goswami, may be able to lose affinity for material things. There is no utility simply in imitating Maharaj Parikshit and hearing Bhagavatam from professional men, even for 700 years. They do saptah, like 7 days like that. So, but then hearing for 7 days and then no transformation, so that is not no very good. So if somebody is sincerely hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, so then there must be some transformation in the heart. And what is the transformation? One gets detached from the worldly positions. That's the transformation that is needed, right? So that's the expected transformation, of studying Srimad Bhagavatam. So even if a professional man is reciting, and then people who just want to do time pass, if they are hearing, even after 700 years of hearing, they will not. What about sapta? Like even after 700 years also they will not transform, right? So to take Srimad Bhagavatam as a means of maintaining family expenditure is the grossest type of nama aparad, offense at the feet of the Lord. Sarva Shubha Kriya Samyam Api Pramadah. So this is basically like selling Srimad Bhagavatam for one's livelihood. I will speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, so you all, like if I have to come and speak, then so much of charge is there. Like you have to pay so much of charge, then I'll come and speak, and in that way I'll maintain myself. This is a good business to make. So if somebody is thinking like that, then it is grossest type of nama aparad, and he will not be able to. The speaker itself, he himself will not be able to progress in God realization. Forget about anybody who is coming and hearing from him. So this has to be done without any personal interest. That is a very, very important aspect. That is when it will be effective. So text 3 and 4. Prapachachemam ayevartam yanmam prachata sattamah krishnanubhava shavane shraddhadano mahamanah samstam vijnaya sanyasya karmatray vargikam chayat Vasudeve Bhagavati Atma Bhavam Dridam Gataha. O great sage, the great soul Maharaj Parikshit, constantly wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna, knowing well his imminent death, renounced all sorts of fruitive activities, namely acts of religion, economic development, and sense gratification, and thus fixed himself firmly in his natural love for Krishna and asked all these questions exactly as you are asking me. Right? So, the same way, like Maharaj, now the Shaunakadi rishis, they are asking that please tell us more, what has happened. So then Suta Goswami is telling that Parikshit Maharaj also was so interested. He was also asking similar kind of questions, that how can I develop love for Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and he was also asking similar kind of questions to Shukadeva Goswami. The three activities of religion, economic development, and sense gratification are generally attractive for conditioned souls struggling for existence in the material world. Such regulated activities prescribed in the Vedas are called karma kandiya, conception of life, and householders are generally recommended to follow the rules just to enjoy material prosperity both in this life and in the next. Most people are attracted by such activities. Even in the activities of the modern activities of their modern godless civilization, people are more concerned with economic development and sense gratification without any religious sentiments. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha is called as the four purusharthas. Dharma means, like, people perform some yajna, some some like some kind of processes and all. Why do they perform? Oh, if we perform that, I'll get a lot of punya. What is the result of punya? So, like, I'll get a lot of money. If I have a lot of punya, I'll get a lot of money. So dharma, artha. And if I get, why do you need money? Oh, now I have to do sense gratification. Now I have to, like, enjoy this life very nicely. And then dharma, artha, kama. And then when they are frustrated completely with that, then they try for moksha, right? So this is the common path the general mass of people take. And all the demigod worships and all the various you know uh, vratas and this and that and all what is mentioned in the scriptures is mostly for this category of dharma. The like, that is why we'll see that generally when these celebrations are done, so much of this one is done, like, this falastuti. If we see that, you will get so many so much of wealth, you will get so much of this one, that one, and all. So all these things is completely material. That kind of karma kandiya yajnas, devotees should not perform, right? So this dharma results in artha, because of punya of dharma, like they get some wealth, and then they use it in sense gratification. And after a long time, when they are frustrated, they look for moksha. So that's something that the common section of people they do. But in the modern godless civilization, they have removed the dharma aspect. They are not doing any yajnas, they are not doing any process of dharma. No, they have just stuck onto the economic development and sense gratification, right? So these two things they have stuck up to. And moksha, like that also, like first part and last part they have removed. They are only, like, middle two. So that is artha and kama. So that is artha means, like, economic development, and then kama means sense gratification. So these two things they have sticked on to. Okay. As a great emperor of the world, Maharaj Parikshit had to observe such regulations of Vedic Karma Kandiya section. But by his slight association with Sukadeva Goswami, he could perfectly understand that Lord Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead Vasudev, from whom he had a natural love since his birth, is everything, and thus he fixed his mind firmly upon him, renouncing all modes of Vedic Karma Kandiya activities. So now we have studied that Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee. Then why is he necessary to perform these karma kandiya activities, karma kandiya, yajnas and things like that and all? No, it is because to set a proper example. He is a great devotee, that's not a problem. But then people in general are not great devotees. No, they are attached to sense gratification. So then to set a proper example for them, he also performs all this Vedic sacrifices and things like that, so that the common people, they will at least, if they're not becoming devotees, at least they will pick up some example from the king, and they will do at least some yajnas and things like that and all. So here, but then it is mentioned here. So he knew it, that Krishna is supreme lord, and then devotional service unto him is the ultimate. So now, because he was engaged in other activities also, just to set an example for the people who are lower in the stature. So he had to do other things. But once he met Sukadeva Goswami, now all the other clouding things got completely clarified, and then he gave up everything, and he was just fully focused on Krishna consciousness. This perfectional stage is attained by a jnani after many, many births. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanamam mam prapadyate. Bahunam means bahu, means like it is many, many, janma. Bahunam janmanam ante, after many, many births, jnanamam mam prapadyate. So, what Parikshit Maharaj was able to attain just by association of Shukadeva Goswami, generally for a jnani, it takes many, many births, right? So the jnanis or the empiric philosophers endeavoring for liberation are thousands of times better than the fruity workers, and out of hundreds of thousands of such jnanis, one is liberated factually. And out of hundreds of thousands of such liberated persons, even one person is rarely found who can firmly fix his mind unto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, as declared by Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 7:19. Maharaj Parikshit is specially qualified with the word Mahamanaha, which puts him on an equal level with Mahatmas described in Bhagavad Gita. In the later age, also, there have been many Mahatmas of this type, and they also gave up all Karmakandiya conception of life solely and wholly depending on the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Lord Chaitanya, who's Lord Krishna himself, taught us in Sikshashtaka, Ashlishava Padaratham Pinashtumam Adarshanam Marmahatam Karotuva Yata Tatha Va Vidadhatu Lampato Mat Prananatastu Saeva Na Paraha. Lord Krishna, who is the lover of many devotees, may embrace this fully surrendered maidservant, or may trample me with his feet, or he may render me broken-hearted by not being present before me for a long duration of time. But still, he is nothing less than the absolute Lord of my heart. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's composition, and it is like in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is mentioned as the mood of Srimati Radharani. So this is the kind of highest mood of devotional service that is there. So people in general, they worship the Lord saying that I want this benefit, I want that benefit, and if they don't get it, then they become like, no, what is this God? No, I'll change somebody else and things like that. But here we see the example of the topmost devotee, Srimati Radharani. She is telling that whether the Lord is doing any favor to me or not, that doesn't matter. No, I am always, for me, always, no, Krishna is the absolute. No, that is the this one. So, and then we see Srila Rupa Goswami, his this one, Virachamai Dandam Dina Bando Daya Maiva Gatir Ihap Na Bhavatha Kachid Anya Mamasti Nipatatho Satakoti Nirbaram Va Navambaha Tad Apikila Payoda Stuyate Chatakena Chatakena. O Lord of the poor, that is Dina Bandhu, O Lord of the poor, do what you like with me. Give me either mercy or punishment. But in this world, I have none to look except your lordship. The Chataka bird always prays for the cloud, regardless of whether it showers rains or throws a thunderbolt. Right? So here, this example is a quite amazing example. Chataka bird. This is a bird, which doesn't drink water here and there. It only drinks water directly from the rains. So this Chataka bird always looks upon the sky and anticipating the rain, and it is always looking upon the clouds, eagerly. There is so many water ponds, there is so many other places it can go and drink water, but it doesn't do that. So in the same way, a pure devotee of the Lord, whether the Lord is like the clouds, and then the rain is like the mercy. Now, whether the clouds are giving rains or not, the Chataka bird will only take the water from the clouds as in the form of rain. It will not go for any other source. In the same way, a pure devotee of the Lord, he also doesn't look for any other source. He exclusively looks only for the Lord. And if the Lord gives him some mercy, that is okay. If the Lord gives him punishment, that is okay. Whatever it is, anything that has to happen in my life, it has to happen with the Lord, and not through no other source. That's a very, very clear policy of a pure devotee. So he doesn't mind whether he's in good situation, bad situation, and things like that. Whatever situation the Lord puts him in, he is completely happy with that, right? So his only thing is that I want to be with the Lord, happiness or distress. That's the only thing, right? So next is Srila Madhavendra Puri, the grand spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master is Ishvara Puri, and his spiritual master is Madhavendra Puri. So his statements is mentioned here. So he took leave of all Karma Kandiya obligations in the following words. Sandhya vandane bhadramastu bhavato bosnana tubhyam namo bodeva pitarascha tarpana vido naham shamam shamyatham yatra kvapi nashadya yadava kulottamasya kamshat visha smaram smaram aham harami tad alam manye kimanye name. So voice is low. Okay, I'll try to speak. Now it is better. Now the voice is better.
Yes, Guruji.
Okay.
Better.
Okay. So now here Madhavendra Puri is speaking. He is telling, "Oh my evening prayer, no Sandhya Vandanam, no oh my Trikala Sandhya, no oh my evening prayer, all good unto you. Oh my morning bath, no I bid you goodbye. O demigods and forefathers, please excuse me. I am unable to perform any more offerings for your pleasure. Now I have decided to free myself from all reactions to sins simply by remembering anywhere and everywhere the great descendant of Yadu and the great enemy of Kamsa, that is Lord Krishna. I think that this is sufficient for me. So what is the use of further endeavors? Right? So it's a very, very amazing mood that Madhavendra Puri is showing, that no, he's telling that all other processes, like no, he's an exalted sannyasi, no, very, very high level. So this no, we cannot just stop taking bath and no, following our other procedures and things like that. But then here, no, the reason why he is telling is his remembrance of Krishna is so much that he's all the time he's like fully mad after Krishna, and he's not able to get any time to, or he's not even getting the consciousness. No, he's everything else is forgotten for him. Only thing that he remembers is Krishna, right? So and he's praying, addressing them. No, oh my evening prayer, no, all good unto you. Oh my morning bath, no, the demigods, no, all this, all of you, please excuse me. I am unable to perform any more offerings for your pleasure. So I wish to, but then I'm unable to, because no, I'm constantly remembering the Lord Krishna, and I'm not able to do anything no else apart from that. So this is a very, very advanced stage of devotional service. No, so there is another sloka from Madhavendra Puri. So Muktam Mam Nigadantu Niti Nipuna Brantam Muhur Vaidika Mandam Bandava Sanchaya Jada Diyam Muktadara Sodara Unmattam Unmattam Danino Viveka Chatura Kamam Mahadhambikam Moktum Na Ksham Kshamathe Managapi Mano Govinda Padaspraham. Let the sharp moralist accuse me of being illusion. I do not mind. Experts in the Vedic activities may slander me as being misled. Friends and relatives may call me frustrated. My brothers may call me a fool. The wealthy mammonous may point me out as mad, and the learned philosophers may assert that I am much too proud. Still, my mind does not budge an inch from the determination to serve the lotus feet of Govinda, though I be unable to do it. Right? So, no, whether I'm doing my devotional service, like no, he's not like whatever I'm able to do in the service of the Lord, that is sufficient enough. I don't need anything else, no, apart from this, like that. So it is a sequel to the like the previous sloka. Anyway, so it's very, very high consciousness. So we cannot imitate this at our level. And also Prahlad Maharaj, he's telling, Dharmartha Kama iti yo bihitas trivarga iksha trahi nayadham mo vividha cha varta manye tade tadakilam nigamasya satyam swatmarpanam swatmarpanam swasuhruda paramasya pumsaha. He's telling religion, economic development, and sense gratification are celebrated as three means for attaining the path of salvation. of these iksha trayi, especially that is knowledge of self, knowledge of fruitive acts, and logic, and also politics and economics, are different means of livelihood. All these are different subjects of Vedic education, and therefore I consider them temporary engagements. On the other hand, surrendering unto the Supreme Lord Vishnu is a factual gain in life, and I consider it ultimate truth. Right? So, no, all of them are telling in the same lines. They are saying that, no, I just want to, anything that comes in the way of remembering the Lord, I just simply keep them aside. Even though it is Vedic procedures or whatever procedures and things like that, I'm just going to keep all of them, by the side. I'm just going to exclusively focus on the Supreme Lord. So that is something that Prahlad Maharaj, and all the devotees like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Madhavendra Puri, and Prahlad Maharaj, all of them are speaking the same thing, right? So this is a very, very exalted consciousness, very high levels of consciousness. So here we are talking about Parikshit Maharaj, who just detached himself and then came to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadev Goswami. So here, Prabhupada is giving like further references, like how various other personalities, great personalities, have done that in the past. It is not something that, it is two kinds of people are there. So one kind of people are, everyone knows that we are not going to be permanently there in this world. So one kind of people is that they are too attached, knowing very well they have to leave all these things, but still they are too attached. And when the death comes, their death is very, very painful. It is mentioned that 40,000 scorpions biting at the same time, and that is the pain of death, for an attached person. So it's like, you can imagine if a person is having a wallet and on a phone and many other his paraphernalia and things like that. If one of them gets lost, if one of them gets stolen, they become so much pained at heart, right? So if our wallet gets stolen, or if something of our life gets stolen, so then we become very, very disturbed by that. So but then here we see that like all the things, death means everything of our life is going to get stolen at one shot. Our relatives, our property, our bank balance, everything is going to be stolen at one shot. And at that time, like what kind of pain it will be there? It will be intense pain will be there in the person. So that is why it is mentioned as 40,000 scorpions biting at the same time. That's the kind of pain that is experienced at the time of death. But for a devotee of the Lord, because he is attached to Krishna, he naturally gets detachment from all these things. And when death comes, it is not a very big thing. He can very easily just sail through this whole thing. He can very easily like pass through that gate of death, and then without any pain, he can actually reach to the kingdom of God, right? So that's the benefit of being attached to the devotional process, being attached to the Supreme Lord. And all the matter, we have to just be just ask this question: if I'm getting attached to a particular thing, what is the reason for that attachment? So if the reason is, oh, this is something Krishna has given me, I have to take care of it, and I should be ready. If I consider this to be a Krishna's property, I should be ready. If any time Krishna wants it back, I should be ready to give it back to him, saying that, okay, fine, now if Krishna says tomorrow that all that you were taking care of, it's all my property, now on I'll take care, you can move on. So then we should be happy. Okay, fine, whatever the next assignment you give me, I am ready. I'm just going to move on. So that's essentially the death that's going to happen, right? So it's there in everyone's list. Every one of us have to go through it. It's intelligent to prepare ourselves for that. Become detached from everything that we have and everything that is surrounding us. One day we have to be detached from it. So why not? We live in a detached consciousness, thinking that it is Krishna's property. He has given me for some time, given all these things for some time, and I have to maintain it till the time he calls me for, right? So that is something that we have to do. And then here we see the whole matter is concluded in Bhagavad Gita as Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, or absolute path of perfection. Sri Baldev Vidyabhushan, a great Vaishnava scholar, defines this as Bhagavat Archana Rupika Nishkama Karmabir Vishuddha Chittaha. Accepting transcendental loving service of the Lord as the prime duty free from fruitive reaction. So this is something, one's prime duty, in the nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu durashaya e bahirattamanina. So our swartha, our real selfishness, our real prime duty is Vishnu. Like we have to focus on Lord Vishnu. So Maharaj Parikshit was perfectly right when he firmly accepted the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, renouncing all karmakandiya conceptions of life. Okay. So next shloka. Raja uvacha samichinam vacho brahman sarvajnasya tavanaga tamo vishriyathe mahyam harer katayatak katham. So here, Maharaj Parikshit is called as Raja Uvacha. So they were discussing, Shaunakadi Rishis and Suta Goswami, and Shaunakadi Rishis, they were asking that, please tell us, what more happened, what more discussions happened between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadev Goswami, and Suta Goswami appreciated them, and then now, he's directly relaying, what Parikshit Maharaj, what further questions Parikshit Maharaj asked, and what replies Shukadev Goswami gave, right? So here you see, Maharaj Parikshit said, "O learned Brahmana, you know everything because you are without material contamination. Therefore, whatever you have spoken to me appears perfectly right. Your speeches are gradually destroying the darkness of my ignorance, for you are narrating the topics of the Lord." Right? So the practical experience of Maharaj Parikshit is disclosed herein, revealing the transcendental topics of the Lord act like injections when received by sincere devotee from a person who is perfectly uncontaminated by material tinges. So the two things are there. One is, the person who is receiving the injection or medicine, he should be a devotee, and then the person who is delivering the medicine, he should be completely uncontaminated by material tinges. Such is the amazing transaction. Like if I am not a devotee of the Lord, if I am envious of the Lord, then even if I hear Harikatha, nothing is going to happen to my heart. But then if I accept that I want to become a devotee of the Lord, but I'm struggling with all the anarthas, or I'm struggling with a lot of things, the material attachments. And if we hear from a person who is completely uncontaminated by material tinges, that's the perfect combination. We get so much more push into the devotional service, right? In other words, reception of the messages of Srimad Bhagavatam from professional men heard by a Karma Kandiya audience never acts miraculously as stated here. Devotional hearing of messages of the Lord is not like hearing ordinary topics. Therefore, the action will be felt by sincere hearer by experience of gradual disappearance of ignorance. Yasya deve parabhaktir yatha deve tata guru tasyaite katita hi artha prakashante mahatmanah. So when a hungry man is given food to eat, he feels satiation of hunger and the pleasure of dining simultaneously. Thus, he does not have to ask whether he has actually been fed or not. The crucial test of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is that one should get positive enlightenment by such an act. Here it's mentioned, Yasya deve parabhaktir yatha deve tata guru. So that means devotion unto the Supreme Lord, deve, and yatha deve tata guru. So how he is having devotion to the Supreme Lord, in the same way, yatha deve tata means however he is having the devotion to the Lord, in the same way he should have devotion to the spiritual master also. So one who is completely devoted to the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, what happens? Tasyaite katitahi artha. Immediately for him, everything about, he becomes, he understands the meanings of what prakashante mahatmana. So all the meanings of the Vedic knowledge actually will manifest in his heart. That is the power of the devotion to the spiritual master and the Supreme Lord, right? So he can unearth everything that is there. There is no secrets that is hidden for him. So here, Prabhupada is saying that if a person is properly practicing, the result is there. So if somebody is eating food and if he's no, he doesn't need to ask like no whether no it is sufficient or not to anybody. He knows if the hunger is subsided. He knows that no, I've done, I've got it enough, right? So in the same way, like if we are performing devotional service properly, no, to the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, then no, all that is needed to be known will automatically be enlightened from within the heart, right? So the crucial test of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is that one should get positive enlightenment by such an act, right? Tashyate katita hi artha prakashante mahatmana. Okay, text 6. Bhuya eva vivitasmi bhagavan atma mayaya etedam srijate vishwam durvibhavyam adishvaraihi. I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, creates this phenomenal universe as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods. Purport. In every inquisitive mind, the important question of the creation of the phenomenal world arises, and therefore, for a personality like Maharaj Parikshit, who was to know all activities of the Lord from his spiritual master, such an inquiry is not uncommon. No, so like now the Parikshit Maharaj is not thinking that from a materialistic point of view why he should understand about this world, that is a phenomenal world, that is the material world. So why he has to understand this if his goal is to go to spiritual world? So he wants to understand because it is also creation of Lord, and he wants to understand everything about the Lord. No, that's why he's asking such a question, right? For every unknown thing, we have to learn and inquire from a learned personality. The question of creation is also one of such inquiries to be made to the right person. The spiritual master, therefore, must be one who is Sarvajna, as stated here and before in connection with Sukadeva Goswami. Thus, all inquiries on God, which are unknown to the disciple, may be made from a qualified spiritual master. And here, the practical example is set by Maharaj Parikshit. It was, however, already known to Maharaj Parikshit that everything we see is born out of energy of Lord, as we have all learnt in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Janma Deshayatha. So this is everything that exists is born out of the Lord, right? So Maharaj Parikshit wanted to know the process of creation. The origin of creation was known to him. Otherwise, he would not have inquired how the personality of Godhead by his different energies creates this phenomenal world. So he doesn't have any no confusion of the origin. Origin is from the Supreme Lord, but the process of creation, how the Lord manifested this whole universe, that's something that he's asking. The common man also knows that the creation is made by some creator and is not created automatically. We have no experience in the practical world that a thing is created automatically. Foolish people say that the creative energy is independent and acts automatically as electrical energy works. No, this is a very famous atheistic conclusion, that is no, everything that is happening here is happening automatically. The material nature is no working automatically. There is no need of God to explain the whole concept of creation. No, but here Parikshit Maharaj is very clear. No, he's saying that no, there is a creator, and then I want to know the process of creation, how it works. Okay? So here, let's continue the purport. But the intelligent man knows that even the electrical energy is generated by an expert engineer in the localized powerhouse, and thus the energy is distributed everywhere under the resident engineer's supervision. The Lord's supervision in connection with the creation is mentioned even in Bhagavad Gita 9:10, as it is clearly said that material energy is a manifestation of one of many such energies of the supreme. Parasha Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. Parasha Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. So there are many different energies out there. Parasha Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. As inexperienced boy may struck with wonder by seeing the impersonal actions of electronics or many other wonderful things conducted by electrical energy. But an experienced man knows that behind the action is a living man who creates such energy. So, here we see that sometimes Prabhupada also gives this example of a small boy a small child may see that a car is there and it is going, and it is like, they feel that, oh, it is so wonderful, this object is how it is moving around and things like that. A grown up person, he will give credit to the driver, not to the car, right? So in the same way, like here we see that, even if electrical energy is taken to be wonderful, but still it has to be, monitored and taken care by an engineer. No, otherwise it is not possible, right? So similarly, the so-called scholars and philosophers of the world may, by mental speculation, present so many utopian theories about the impersonal creation of the universe. But an intelligent devotee of the Lord, by studying the Bhagavad Gita, can know that behind the creation is the hand of Supreme Lord. Just as in the generating electrical powerhouse, there is a resident engineer. The research research scholar finds out the cause and the effect of everything. But research scholars as great as Brahma, Shiva, Indra, and other demigods are sometimes bewildered by seeing the wonderful creative energy of the Lord. So, what to speak of the tiny mundane scholars dealing in petty things? So, big people, who know so many things, and they are getting confused and they are getting bewildered by the actions of the Lord. Then, what to speak of us, who are very, very small, right? As there are differences in the living conditions of different planets of universe, and as one planet is superior to other, the brains of the living entities in those respective planets are also different categorical values. So we see that in Brahma Loka, in the higher planetary systems, their intelligence and their crunching capacity is too much that if we see, Lord Brahma knows every single thing that is happening within the creation, right? So that's a lot actually. And then he has to manage we have big construction companies, but then they can do some portion of this world, they can build up and things like that. But here, Lord Brahma, he commissions constructions throughout the universe, 14 planetary system, and it's really, really very amazing. And people with such brains, and not that to one brain, Brahma has 4 heads. So with all that what he can do, still he is bewildered by the actions of the Lord. So that is the Lord's intelligence is even more unimaginable actually. Okay, as there are difference in living conditions, okay, this we studied. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one can compare the long duration of life of the inhabitants of Brahma's planet, which is inconceivable to the inhabitants of this planet Earth, to the categorical value of Brahmaji's brain of the Brahmaji, also inconceivable to any great scientist of this planet. So Prabhupada is comparing the life duration and the intelligence power or the brain power. So here we have the life of maximum 100 years, and Brahma in our calculation is like crores and crores of years, he's going to live. So that is the what is that, the comparative value, that is the factor that like Srila Prabhupada is telling that we should use for intelligence also. We have 100 is to some infinity. That is how like our brain power is like the value 100, and Brahmaji's brain power is like infinity, like crores and crores, some 430 odd crores or something like that. So but if we see, even such highly evolved brains, they get bewildered by the actions of the Lord, right? So this is really the Lord must be super brilliant to even put Brahma also into illusion, right? So, and with such high brain power, even Brahma has described in his great Samhita, Brahma Samhita, as follows: Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govindaha Sarvakarana Karanam. So this is this one, the meaning of it. There are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagavan, but Krishna is a supreme because none can excel him. He is the supreme person, and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the primeval Lord Govinda and the cause of all causes, right? So Brahmaji admits Lord Krishna to be the supreme cause of all causes, but persons with tiny brains within this petty planet Earth thinks of Lord as one of them. Thus, when the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita that he, Lord Krishna, is all in all, the speculative philosophers and the mundane wranglers deride him, right? So they don't accept Krishna's position. And the Lord regretfully says, Avajananti mam muda manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. 9:11. Uh, Brahma and Shiva, and what to speak of other demigods, are bhutas, or powerful created demigods who manage the universal affairs, much like ministers appointed by a king. Right. So these are all like they are they're just representatives or administrative heads of this universal management, and the Supreme Lord is like really very high, really very big in comparison to them. The ministers may be Ishwaras or controllers, but the Supreme Lord is Maheshwara or controller or the creator of the controllers. Persons with poor fund of knowledge do not know this, and therefore they have the audacity to deride him because he comes before us by his causeless mercy occasionally as a human being. The Lord is not like a human being. He is Sachidananda Vigraha, or the absolute personality of Godhead, and there is no difference between his body and his soul. He is both the power and the powerful. Maharaj Parikshit did not ask his spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, to narrate Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. He wanted to hear first about the creation of the Lord. Sukadeva Goswami did not say that the king should hear about the direct transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The time was very short, and naturally Sukadeva Goswami could have gone directly to the 10th canto to make a shortcut of the whole thing, as generally done by the professional reciters. But neither the king nor the great speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam jumped like the organizers of Bhagavatam. Both of them proceeded systematically so that both future readers and hearers might take lessons from the example of the procedure of reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who are under the control of external energy of Lord, or in other words, those who are in the material world, must first of all know how the external energy of Lord is working under the direction of Supreme Personality, and afterwards one may try to enter into the activities of the internal energy. So this is a very nice advice that is given to us. We should not just try to directly go to the 10th canto where Lord Krishna's pastimes are there. So we should go step by step. And why it is? Because that is a way the previous acharyas have followed. That is a way like all these great personalities have followed, and we should also try to follow in the same way, right? And just by doing the same thing what the previous acharyas have done, so we are going to get immense benefit. We should not think that like I have to do something else, something new and innovative. So we should just simply follow whatever the previous acharyas have done, and then all the good benefit will be there for us. And here it's mentioned, before we try to understand what is the internal energy of the Lord, we should understand what is the external energy of the Lord. That is, what is Maya and how does the Maya work. So that's a very important thing. Otherwise, we may try to hear the pastimes of Krishna, but we will try to interpret them in the material way, right? So that should not be done. So we'll continue here. The mundaners are mostly worshippers of Durga Devi, the external energy of Krishna, but they do not know that Durga Devi is but the shadow energy of the Lord. Behind her astonishing display of material workings is the direction of the Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, right? So Durga Devi is the energy of Lord, and she is working so wonderfully. The Maya is called Durga, so she's acting so wonderfully in this world. It's all because the behind there is Vishnu is there. He's the ultimate, this one, Maya Dekshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetunanena Kaunteya. Okay, so Maya Dakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. So this is, Lord is saying that Prakriti, or the material nature, or Durga Devi, is working on Maya Adyaksha. So he is controlling, he is the dictator of the material nature, right? So behind the wonderful workings of material nature, there is Lord. So in Brahma Samhita, the Brahma Samhita affirms that Durga Shakti is working by the direction of Govinda, and without his sanction, the powerful Durga Shakti cannot move even a blade of grass. right? So this is mm, yeah, I'm not able to remember the shloka exactly now. Anyways, anybody remembers, they can post it in next 2 minutes. Therefore, the neophyte devotee, instead of jumping at once to the platform of transcendental pastimes presented by the internal energy of Lord, may know how great the Supreme Lord is by inquiring about the process of his creative energy. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, also descriptions of the creative energy of and the Lord and the Lord's hand in it are explained. And the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita has warned the neophyte devotees to be seriously on guard against the pitfalls of neglecting knowledge about Krishna in regard to how great he is. Only when one knows Lord Krishna's greatness can one firmly put one's unflinching faith in him. Otherwise, like the common man, even the great leaders of men will mistake Lord Krishna for one of the many demigods or a historical personality or a myth only. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan or even at Dwaraka are relishable for persons who have already qualified themselves in advanced spiritual techniques, and the common man may be able to attain such a plane by gradual process of service and inquiries, as we shall see in the behavior of Maharaj Parikshit. Okay, so we will stop here. The second canto is going to be, there is a lot of purports are going to be there, a lot of explanation are going to be there. So Prabhupada at that point in time, he did not know how long more he is going to live. So he was in his very, very ripe old age. And then he was trying to give the maximum message in the second canto, like first canto and second canto. So they're quite elaborate in their purports actually. So then later on, when his health picked up, so then he started writing further this ones, and that's why we'll see in second canto long purports will be there for the shlokas. Anyways, so thank you all very much for your kind audience, and let's finish here, and we'll resume tomorrow. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.